Welcome everyone to another edition of the Ubuntu Community Team Q&A. I'm David Planella, manage the community team at Canonical, and I'm joined by another community manager in the team, Michael Hall. And hello. And as every week, we're here to answer all of your questions about Ubuntu, open source, and anything else that you can ask us. In terms of questions, mostly any question is valid. The only thing that we generally don't answer are questions related to technical support, where we've got better channels that you can go to get some help on solving your technical issues. We're on ubuntuonair.com. You'll find us there streaming live. You can go to YouTube, clicking on the link as well. And mostly the way it works is that you can ask your questions on IRC as you're seeing us live, and we answer them as we keep seeing them. The best thing to do is to just prepend your question with the word question, so that we make sure that we don't miss any. And with this, another tradition of this Q&A is to start with a round of news of what's been happening in the community world this week. As I was away part of the week, I think I'll let Mike take the stage and tell us what's been going on.
All right, so we've been very heavily involved in Snappy for a little while now. We've been running weekly Snappy playpens over on Gitter. Gitter is a nice Slack-like IRC replacement, newfangled chat thing, but it's connected with GitHub, which makes it really nice to collaborate on projects that are hosted there. So I've posted a link in the IRC. It's gitter, gitter.im/ubuntu/snappy-playpen. We've got a bunch of Snap packagers and some of the developers of Snapd and Snapcraft in there, as well as a bunch of people who are just trying to learn it and package their own stuff. We are in there pretty much all the time, but we've been dedicating Tuesdays the past few weeks to this playpen and helping people who come along that are stuck on one thing or another. We've managed to help quite a few people. The list of example apps in the playpen repo is growing every day. So if you're interested in packaging anything for Snaps, come join us there. It's always pretty active and lots of helpful people there. In addition to the playpens, there's been some changes to the Snapd service, including adding some interfaces that were needed for VLC support. So now there's an optical drive interface and also a camera, I think, or video. I don't remember exactly what. But there's a couple new interfaces that Snaps can take advantage of there. I think that's all of the Snap announcements that I know of. David, did you have any others?
No, I think that was pretty complete. Just as a reminder, Mike has mentioned already the Snappy playpen. If it's essentially happening today, it's every Tuesday. So if you have got whether you're just starting with Snaps, you want to have a try as a developer to create your first snap, or you're halfway through creating your snap and you've got a blocker, I'd say just head to the playpen. The playpen is essentially a place where we help each other creating snaps. There's no assumptions that you're an expert there. If you're an expert and if you go there, you'll probably be helping others who are getting started. So any level or any skill level is really welcome in there. Oh, good point. So Daniel Holbeck is mentioning as well that one of the things that we did last week was to create the social media accounts for Snapcraft. As you probably know, a couple of weeks ago we announced Snapcraft.io, which is the place to learn about snaps, getting started with creating snaps to run on any distro. Essentially, we're moving some of the resources from that are not Ubuntu specific to a place where other distros and other upstreams can consume them without being tied to Ubuntu itself. That doesn't mean that Ubuntu or Canonical are not working on Snapcraft or Snaps. We're still the main drivers, but we want to make the technology and the source code more readily available to anyone who wants to contribute, be it whichever distro upstream it is. So with this, we started creating a set of resources that are independent from Ubuntu. One of them being, I'll say, snapcraft.io, but we created some social media accounts as well. All of them are called snapcraft.io or snapcraft.io.
Not dot. I think they're all just snapcraft.io.
Thanks, Mike. So snapcraft.io on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Google+. If you follow the Ubuntu social media accounts, you'll have seen us tweeting, sharing, and talking about these accounts. So if you're interested in Snaps to see and interested in knowing what's going on in the world of Snaps and snappy technologies, make sure you subscribe to those.
All right. Well, we have a whole bunch of questions coming in, so why don't we jump right into those?
Yep. So, is the first one from Chloe?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, our favorite one. She's asking about the HUD for Unity 8, as she always does. I've been trying to get a hold of Thomas Voss for a couple of things recently and haven't had any success there. So David was just saying that he's been busy with Kevin Gunn on improving some other things. So that might be why he hasn't responded to me, but I'll keep trying to get him. We've been trying to get him on one of these for a while now. As soon as I know anything, Chloe, you will be the first to know.
All right. So next question is from Simon. Do you know what distros plan on doing with Snaps? Well, as so far, some distros have adopted the Snaps infrastructure. We don't really know any concrete plans right now, but what they're trying to do. One thing to mention, though, is that we make sure that we listen to the feedback from independent distros and upstreams. One of the things that some of them flagged as an issue was the fact that Snaps seem to be tied to the Ubuntu store. It wasn't really the case, although it's a valid comment in the sense that if you install the snappy infrastructure on a distro, then you've got a direct connection to the store. However, there's nothing stopping you from creating your own repo or rather store. And you may have seen the news last week when Dustin Kirkland essentially posted some basic server code to use as a reference for people to create their own stores. And with this, as a follow-up, the open store guys actually implemented that server, and then they created their own open source store for applications that you would otherwise not install on a production phone.
Right. So just to follow up on what David just said, without speaking for the distros themselves, our plan is to get snapd and snap-confine, which are the two pieces you need to run snaps, accepted into the primary repositories for all of the major distros. So Fedora, Arch, Debian. So that's our goal. We also want to make sure that we can provide runtime confinement for snaps on these distros, and that might be a longer term amount of work. As far as whether or not the distros officially adopted or included in the default install, that's going to be up to them. I think it's too early right now for them to make that decision.
All right, next question from, I cannot really pronounce the name. Start with KZ6.
Pitycent.
Something, yeah. With applications now supporting an apparent framework for casting video, e.g. Chromecast, will Ubuntu Touch be seeing any iteration of the same technology. Mike, I think I'll defer to you to answer that one. You know these technologies best.
Right. So we've got something called Ethercast. It's AETHER cast, and that's a Miracast compatible streaming service. That's on the Meizu Pro 5 right now, so you can connect your Pro 5 phone to a Miracast capable display, and it'll display the desktop Unity 8 from your phone onto that. That's our primary focus right now. Like I said, it's running on the Pro 5. The plan is to have it running on all future devices. And Mario Grip, who's the lead of the UBports project, is also working on integrating it with the device images that he provides.
Okay.
So I hope that answers that question.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Another question from Simon. What's the status of the Snappy playpen? Asking by someone who's been participating in every single one. So first of all, thanks a lot for being part of the playpen, and thanks a lot for the apps that you've been submitting and the people we've been helping already.
And actually, one snappy update that I meant to mention earlier and forgot about was subversion support in Snapcraft. That's recently been contributed by Simon also.
Excellent, good work. So in terms of the status of the playpen, right now I think today was our 4th edition. And to give you some stats, we've got about, I think, I'm just talking off the top of my head. I think we've got about 30 apps. We've reviewed quite a lot of pull requests as well, and so far it's been quite successful. One thing that's been working pretty well has been Gitter itself. I particularly have been very happy with the way it's naturally become an alternative to IRC just for this particular project. And the fact that you can just share in there or small snippets, that's also been really good. We've been doing some work with abstracting launchers so that you don't have to copy and paste the same set of launchers for each of your GTK or Qt apps. I think that's been working pretty well. And in terms of what we're doing right now with the playpen, one of the first outcomes was us documenting best practices or how to do things within a snapcraft.yaml file. So what Daniel Holbach, who's been driving the playpen so far, did last week was essentially to go through all of that knowledge in thousands and thousands of messages on the playpen in issues and pull requests, and summarize that into a set of guidelines or into a set of tips on how to do a particular thing with Snapcraft.io. This might be how to use a part, how to use particular plugin, and essentially to make it easier for people to get started. If you go to github.com/ubuntu/playpen, and then you head to the wiki, you'll find the first iteration of that. What Daniel was telling me was that today, rather than doing cleanup on the pull requests, was to document the things that are not working, so to make sure that we can pass that feedback to the Snappy team to get better visibility from the developer side of things on which things would be interesting to focus on.
All right. So moving on, Chloe's asking, why don't all Ubuntu phone apps like music, gallery, etc. We've packaged, I think, and calculator as examples I think the rest of them, we're really just waiting on a new interface that's coming to Snappy that will let us share a little bit more runtime stuff so that the apps aren't quite as big. That's starting to come together now. Probably look for that in the next week or two, some kind of announcement on that. Nothing really blocking those apps other than, we've done enough to show how to do it and what the limitations are right now, and we're waiting for those limitations to be fixed. All right, the next question's a little more general from Chloe again. She says, when you're down, what makes you happy? So what makes you happy, David?
I mentioned it on the on IRC, but sometimes, well, doing community work, it's not always, you don't always have your pink-colored lenses on, and there's quite a lot of passionate people working on different projects, and there's difference of opinions, and there's always, well, I don't want to say always. There's sometimes conflict and people criticizing the work that others or you are doing. So on these occasions, what I do is essentially have a chat with someone that I know that's very enthusiastic about a particular project. It might not even be Ubuntu, but like seeing essentially the passion that they put in the work that they do essentially helps me re-energize. So that's something that I find quite useful. And that might be having a conversation with Mike or with Daniel or with someone, some volunteer Ubuntu member on the Ubuntu community team channel, having a talk with some of the Ubuntu UbuCon organizers. That's always really reassuring and rewarding.
All right. The next one is from Chloe again, and she's asking if you like muffins or cake, and if so, what's your favorite? And I can't help but think that maybe this is a setup for another British English versus US English argument. I'm not sure. Are muffins or cakes mean something different over there? I mean, as a general rule, I like food, so yes, and my favorite is whichever one's most accessible at the moment.
All right.
All right. Sandiero is asking what's happening with this new Midori phone. So this was OMG Ubuntu had an article about rumors of a new device with this codename Midori. And the answer that you will always get from us is that we cannot comment on new devices until the owning them has already done so. So that's the answer here too. We cannot comment on this new device that exists or what it is until the OEM does so. But stay tuned. All right. Simon is asking, on the Ubuntu phone, are those apps snap packages, and if not, when? So on the phone, they're currently all click packages, which was the predecessor of snaps. The plan is to move the phone to start using snaps. I don't have any definite timeline for you on when that's going to happen. David, do you have any better answer than that?
No, other than the fact that we are actually looking at the best solutions, how to do the transition. I mean, two things to bear in mind is that we've got phones in the on the market, and it's not as easy to just bring snaps on those phones. There needs to be a careful transition from snap to clicks that should be seamless for current users of retail phones. The other aspect is as well that that we want to make the developer experience also relatively seamless. I know that that the level of tolerance from developers is a bit higher than users, but essentially we want to make it as easy to them as possible. And then finally, snaps right now on the desktop have got this constraint that with all dependencies packaged inside the same snap, they are still a bit big in size, and we're looking at solutions that will work on the phone and then eventually on the desktop as well, where there's not that much. Just trying to find the word. Essentially, we're trying to make apps smaller by seeing which parts can be reused, and we're still working on this essentially. Okay, next question is from Daniel Holbach. Which snaps are you still waiting for? Actually, I'm looking forward installed from PPA on my desktop. So I'm already using the deck on my desktop, but I'd rather just get rid of that PPA and use and install Deco from the store directly.
Yeah, I'll suck into Deco Snap. Cool. I'm also working on a Pantheon Mail Snap. This kind of sounds like Daniel asking for work items, though.
Yeah.
All right. Chloe's asking, is there any update with the new notifications and messaging framework? No, like with the HUD, I'm waiting to hear from Thomas Voss to get any kind of update on that.
All right, next question from Simon quickly. Ubuntu reported on rumors that there might be a new Ubuntu phone coming out soon. Can you tell us anything? Again, nice try. We get this question often on these Q&As. Generally, what we say is that we don't do any big reveals on those Q&As, particularly because it's also the job of the manufacturers, and we depend on them on when they want to do the announcement. So yeah, there might be some truth in that, perhaps. I mean, if you look at the investigation that the sources from Ubuntu have carried out, it's always good to see how attentive people are and how clever people are at figuring these things out.
Yeah, I think you really can safely assume that there is always a new device in the works on its way out. Until you hear otherwise, just assume that we are still pushing forward with this, and we're still working with OEMs to get new devices out there on the market. All right, Chloe's asking, has there been any update with the new scopes? I believe they predicted that it'd be here within 6 months. I believe it's been 2.5 or 3. I think she's talking about the new dash designs that were shown off at the last the Ubuntu Online Summit. And I think David Calais been working most closely with those developers. So maybe we can have him on next week and he can give us an update on that.
Yeah.
Unless you've seen anything about it, David, have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't really been working closely with those guys on that.
Okay. The next one is for me from Sandiero. It says, why is Ubuntu Touch on my Nexus 4 such a waste of time in terms of the interface, arrow effect, seizing up, etc.? I'm not sure what you mean by the arrow effects or seizing up. I haven't really had those problems on mine. The worst that I get is maybe like a half-second delay in a touch event or a swipe event triggering, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not anything catastrophic, and especially given the age of the phone, it's not all that unexpected.
All right. Next question from Simon Quigley. How can I submit improvements to the snapcraft.io website? The website code is on GitHub, and what I'll do is I'll just paste the link.
Daniel actually gave him a link immediately after that.
Yeah, nice one. So for those of you who are not on IRC and might be watching, if you go to github.com/ubuntudesign/snapcraft.io, that's where you can submit issues. You can see the code and submit pull requests as well and improvements.
All right, Simon's asking, what's our opinion on Flatpak? So I will take that first and say that I have a lot of respect for the work that's going into Flatpak. We're definitely keeping a close eye on it to see they're solving the same problems that we're solving, and what we can learn from them. We're looking at a bunch of others like AppImage, Nix packaging, all the others that are trying to solve the same problems to see who's doing what's working out well and what isn't, and that will affect the direction that Snappy takes. I think competition is good, especially in this space. I think the way to get to a good solution, have multiple standards competing and trying different ways of
Cool. Yeah, as Mike is saying, we've been looking at all different technologies, also within the community team, and to us, I mean, we know that all of the news that have been going on in the last few days. To us, Flatpak is just another competitor. There's no head-to-head war between Snap and Flatpak. As Mike was saying, there's AppImage, there's Nix, there's Grix, there's Orbital Apps, there's Docker, perhaps in a bit of another space, and trying to solve the same problems. I think the best thing will be when there is the one technology that actually addresses all concerns. I mean, because we're the main developers of Snap, even though that we've started to, or we've done a big push as well for it to be a community and not just Ubuntu driven project. We think that Snap is the best solution, but we're learning from what others are doing as well. I think personally, one of the things that I think that Snaps do well is the fact that security and app isolation was a major requirement from the start. It's one of the biggest selling points, and also the fact that we're looking at it from a holistic point of view, where snaps work, or you can create snaps for IoT, for desktop, for cloud, and soon for the phone as well.
All right. Dragonbite is asking what our thoughts are on the rumor that Google is coming out with their own phone, not through a third-party vendor. So I've only heard a little bit of this, and it sounds like they're kind of taking the next step from the Nexus line, where they partner with other companies, to really being the main driver of the hardware design and selection. I don't know if that's going to come out as a Google-branded phone or what their plans are for that. It does seem to be causing some uncertainty and concern with some of the Android vendors. We saw recently Huawei is developing their own alternate phone OS in case something happens with their partnership with Google and Android is not what they want to do anymore. Samsung's been developing Tizen for a while now, and of course we've got companies like Meizu and BQ who are looking at Ubuntu as an alternative as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I don't really know enough to give any predictions one way or the other, though.
All right, next question. That's the one from Daniel. Yeah, when will the phone use snaps? And
As soon as Daniel is done doing all of the work.
Exactly. All right, we're working on it, and soon enough, I will say. Simon is asking, what's your favorite thing about Snapcraft? Oh, the plugins.
Okay, so I've got an easy answer to this. Yes, plugins. So I hate compiling stuff. I hate CMake and make files and all of that because I always have such a hard time getting them to build. And with Snapcraft, when I can just say, point it to a Git repository, tell it that it uses CMake, and then it just does everything for me and gives me a binary at the end. It was like a miracle the first time I tried it. So that is far and away my favorite thing about Snapcraft, is how easy it makes it.
Yeah, so I think we all agree. And to that, I would add just to add another feature, plugins. Sorry, not plugins, parts as well. The fact that you can use reusable, the fact that you can define bits of Snapcraft.yaml or Snapcraft syntax and put them somewhere on the wiki for other people to reuse, not by copying and pasting, but simply by essentially referencing to that definition. I think that's quite powerful as well. Okay. So I'm going to just read this one. I think it's worth from Chloe. Mike, even when your room is dark, your smile still brightens up the room. How?
You're blushing, and that's going to light up the room. People like you, Chloe. You guys, all of you here asking us questions and supporting us in the work that we do and making us know. Thank you for that. All right, moving on to something that's not going to make me blush. Something about dog fooding Unity 8, and if I plan on doing it again anytime soon. And actually, David and I were just talking about this earlier, about kicking off another round of Unity 8 on the desktop dog fooding. So we're going to be planning out how that's going to work and who to involve, and I'm sure that will result in some more blog posts from me about it. Plus a lot of new work coming in on Unity 8 on the desktop that will hopefully make it much easier to use on a daily basis.
All right. I'm not sure I quite understand the question about big rumbles with app support. Do you, Mike?
I think she's asking if there's going to be any big changes in what apps are supported. Probably somewhere in there's a question about whether or not we're going to get WhatsApp support. But I think the bigger picture is going to be once we have snaps on the phone and we've got the whole Libertine container working better, so that have one app package in the Ubuntu App Store, and that's available on phone and desktop both. I think that's going to be the tipping point for a lot of things.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, just to add another angle to this, I think we're seeing convergence now from a different angle, where before we associated mostly convergence with the UI or with getting the Unity 8 on the desktop. Also from the lower levels, from the plumbing, getting support for snaps and for this format to run on type of device or on any desktop or server. That's again another aspect of convergence that's very interesting for users and developers.
All right. A Honeybun is asking if there's any news of Mycroft on the Ubuntu phone. So I remember them showing off a demo a while back.
Yeah,
I don't know how recently that was.
They actually participated, well, not directly on the Ubuntu phone, but they participated in one of the playpens, and they created a snap actually. But other than screenshots, I didn't see any live demo.
Have to find Ryan Sipes and ask him about that.
All right.
So Ryan, if you're watching, how about coming on one of these and talking about Minecraft again?
All right. Okay, Simon is asking, what's your favorite thing about working at Canonical? I guess other than not wearing pants at Hangouts. Just kidding.
Don't give away all our secrets.
I say. Oh, Mike, you stole it from me.
Yeah, sorry. Far and away the people.
Yeah.
Not only are they some of the most talented and intelligent people I have ever worked with, they're also some of the most caring people that I've ever worked with.
Excellent. That's good. I mean, I'd say perhaps it's the same thing at working inside this community, where Canonical is part of that community, and with that, yeah, I enjoy working in the same way with Canonical employees or volunteer contributors.
All right. Simon is asking, what has been the most difficult part of building snaps? So the flip side of plugins being awesome is that when plugins don't just work on a project, then I have to, again, dig into things like why package config isn't finding the dependencies that are clearly there for it to find. That's what I'm struggling with right now in Pantheon Mail. And the layers that Snapcraft adds to the building process, which make it really nice when it all works, just adds a few extra steps that you have to go through when you're actually debugging it. But actually, there's been some stuff added recently, like there's a snappy debug snap now that will help you debug runtime issues. I think somebody said something about there being a way to like change root into a running snap sandbox so that you can poke around at things and see working. So there's a lot of work going into making that part easier.
Okay. Chloe is asking, can you snap Windows or Android apps? Well, you can definitely snap them. The question is whether you can get them to work. I think right now...
I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you mean like running a Windows app on Ubuntu,
I think I mean
then that's probably doable.
I'm interpreting that.
Okay, yeah, like if you were to bundle in Wine with your Windows app and a snap, that would probably work. Or one of the Android runtimes for Linux, that would probably work. I don't think you can like run an Ubuntu snap on Windows, even using Ubuntu for Windows. At least not yet. Maybe some point in the future that'll work.
Mike, I heard something. You're throwing a challenge here for someone to snap and get running an Android app.
There you go. Find one of the Android runtimes and try it. I mean, we've had people package Java apps, so in theory, it's no different. You just include the runtime that it needs in the package.
Yeah. All right. Next question from A Honeybun. Why does the Nexus 7 work so much worse than the Nexus 4? Well, essentially, that's probably because the Nexus 4 has been the main reference device for the phone builds for quite a while, whereas the Nexus 10, starting with the Nexus 10 and then the Nexus 7, were the reference devices for a while for tablets. However, that torch has been taken mostly by the M10 and commercial devices right now. Other than that, I myself haven't been testing the the Nexus 7 on Ubuntu for quite a while. I used to have one to test, but I no longer have. So I cannot really tell
I
you
don't have
first
one
person.
either. All right, Simon is asking, what are you excited about in 1610? So for me, it's going to be Unity 8 desktop included by default, if not the default desktop, at least being on the ISO and people being able to try it out more.
Yeah, so Mike stole my answer again. I mean, this. I know this.
You got to be faster.
I know, yeah. But yeah, I'm excited about being able to use Unity 8 more as a daily driver than an early adopter.
And I would say snaps also, except for snaps are really going to be progressing steadily between now and then, because it is using that core snap image for a lot of the functionality, and that's going to get updates quite a bit more frequently. So I think you're not going to have to wait until 1610 to get all of those snap benefits.
All right, Pope is asking an interesting question. If you could take a week off work and develop something for Ubuntu, what would it be? Oh,
that's a difficult question because we almost have that opportunity regularly, don't we? We're always working on building something for Ubuntu.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I would do, and I'm perhaps not going to answer that question straight, but I'd like to learn more about cloud technologies. I've been playing with Juju quite a lot, actually, but I'm far from an expert on cloud technologies. And I'd like to learn more about this and how they integrate with other parts of the stack or with other complementary technologies, such as Snaps in this case, or Docker, for example. I'd like to have more of a first-hand experience on how all these things fit together and the awesome things that you can do with them.
See, I would go the opposite direction. I would go small and focus on IoT stuff and using like Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone or something like a little appliance of sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Scott R is asking, I've had issues with Wi-Fi stability in 14.04 on Ubuntu on several laptops and Wi-Fi networks. Is Wi-Fi stability better in 16.04? I would say I'm guessing it depends on your hardware.
Yeah, that sounds like more of a hardware. Although he says different laptops, so I don't know. But I've never really had a problem with network stability in 14.04, so I've noticed no difference in 16.04.
Okay. All right. I'm getting some more. I hadn't read the extra context on Poppy's question, so I'm not sure if that answer actually answered the question. So Poppy was saying something your boss won't tell you not to do because you're not at work.
Now, my boss would never tell me not to do something. That doesn't sound like the kind of thing my boss would do. Don't you agree, David?
Nope.
All right. Seb3, Seb, longtime listener, says, getting the impression that BQ and Meizu are mostly using Ubuntu to sell out old stock of older devices. What do you think? And what I mean is, for example, the BQ 4.5 and then about 3 months later, the E5. Now, apparently 3 months after the Meizu Pro 5, a new one will come out. I think that's just par for the course for phone manufacturers. They're always iterating on hardware and trying to put out new devices. I think if this is what they wanted to do, that this is really not an efficient way to do it. Just to give you an example, the Meizu or the BQ 4.5, they actually had to produce devices specifically for Ubuntu so that they didn't have the Android buttons on the screen. So they had to produce new stock in order to sell those. So they're certainly not clearing out any old stock by doing this.
All right. We've got quite a lot of questions actually today. We've got about 13 minutes. Let's see if we can get through those quickly. Simon's asking, have you done anything with Minecraft yet? I personally haven't. I'll piggyback on the work that someone else in the team has been doing on his own time, actually. Just to mention that Poppy is the voice of Minecraft for English.
Chloe's got a question about Mycroft and the HUD, and again, those are all going to have to wait until we get answers from the people behind them.
All right. Chloe is asking, are any of you on RC Propose? If so, how many times burned by not being unstable? I got burned twice, so I'm always unstable now.
I've actually been on RC Proposed for quite a while, and I've never really been burnt necessarily. There are times where there's regressions and bugs or something small is broken, but never anything catastrophic.
Yeah, I mean that's also the merit of having continuous integration running on any images that land on the device as well. I was using.
I take it back. There have been a couple of times where I had to revert back to an old image.
All right. Yeah.
But that's not that hard.
All right. Chloe is asking, nice question actually. What are your favorite books? It might seem a classic, but The Lord of the Rings is still my favorite book. I read it when I was 16 and still I've read it many, many other times since then. And then, yeah, I'd say lately I've been reading more and more sci-fi, and I think any book by Ian Jackson is really, really good on the culture. Sorry, Ian Jackson. Ian Band. Sorry, I don't know where I was at.
So my approach to books is kind of like my approach earlier. I like all kinds of books, and my favorite is whichever one I happen to have currently. Recently, I've taken to reading a lot of history books. I've been going through a lot of European history lately that I've quite enjoyed because I feel like I didn't get enough of that when I was in school. All right, so Simon's asking, what are we looking forward to in the next 6 months? And we kind of answered that earlier a little. I think over the next 6 months, the evolution of Snappy is going to be fast and massive in what it can do between now and then. So I'm really looking forward to the pace of development there.
Cool. Yeah. Other than that, I'm looking forward to summer too. So
you broke up a little bit there. What did you say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, other than Snappy, I'm really looking forward to summer too.
Yeah. Well, summer's too hot around here.
Well, yeah, I forgot that summer is all year round where you are.
Yeah. No, we have like a week or two of winter.
Okay. I won't comment on that. Anyway, next question from Sandero. Is Nexus 4 Ubuntu Touch proposed much better than standard Ubuntu Touch? I need this to work. The phone itself doesn't work with calls.
I'm not sure what difference it is you're pointing out. So the Nexus 4 is the development target device for the engineers here in Canonical. So the Nexus 4 image is the... Oh, hang on. Does he mean the RC proposed, is it better than the stable one? If you want your phone to work, you should probably stick with stable. The proposed stuff is daily landing. You never know what's going to change.
All right. Next, am I muted? No, I'm not. Next question from Sandado. If phones are so important, then why isn't Mary Gibb a full-time employee? So Mario Grip, for the people who don't know them, is a community member. He's the person behind UB Ports. He's also a regular on our Ubuntu on Air, and lately he's just been everywhere. Not only he's announcing new ports on UB ports, but also I've been seeing him submitting new plugins for Snapcraft. I've seen him involved in the announcement of the open store supporting snaps as well. And I mean, I would say Mario is not directly associated with the phone. He's just everywhere essentially. In terms of getting him in Canonical, I'll say the same answer as we generally do. Generally, we focus on some parts of some particular parts of the project at given times, given our sorry, I've just forgotten the word. Given our quarterly strategy, and given that we generally don't just go and headhunt people unless there's a specific need, but rather we look at the resources that we need, resources in terms of engineers, of managers, of marketers, and so on. And what I'd recommend to anyone wanting to work for Canonical, looking for a job at Canonical, is to look closely at the canonical.com/careers page. There's always good opportunities in there.
And beyond that, I think it's really important that we have an ecosystem of porters and developers outside of Canonical, and that we support them properly with resources and with documentation. And Marius has been helping us quite a bit, pointing out where our documentation is lacking so that we can fix that. If we just brought everybody internally, then chances are we would never get around to fixing all of that stuff. All right, Chloe's asking if there are any rules for content in the store. I think we have some unofficial rules, like it shouldn't be, obviously it can't be illegal content. We're not going to accept anything like that. We don't have any like age filtering in the store, so it really should be considerate about that. What kind of content you put in is going to be accessible to anybody with a phone or a tablet or desktop soon. So, be mindful of that. But other than that, I don't think there is. It's got to be confined to go in our store, unless you get a whitelist exception, which is going to be few and far between. But then you can always sideload things too. Like the open store, you can sideload, and then they have their own set of rules for what's allowed into their store.
All right.
We've got about 5 minutes left. Oh, good Lord, we have a bunch of questions left still, don't we?
Oh, let me just pick the next one. As usual, feel free to ask them, to bring them to the next Q&A if we don't get through all of this. The SEP3BQ M10 HC is asking, the Meizu Pro 5 kept on being advertised as being the most powerful Ubuntu phone so far with powerful hardware. However, really, DOS wouldn't currently use the hardware full potential, since Ubuntu Touch is quite a limited basic OS really so far. So I'm not sure if that's a question or that's hinting at something, to be honest.
Yeah, I think anytime you have more resources in RAM and disk space and CPU, that's going to make the multitasking experience better and expand how much you can do at a given time. And especially with the Pro 5, with the wireless display, those extra specs really make it more useful as a desktop environment and supporting those use cases than, for example, the Nexus 4 is. Even though the Nexus 4 is pretty fast when plugged into an external monitor, it still shows its limitations if you were to try and run something like LibreOffice on it. So I think where Ubuntu is going to take advantage of all of this extra hardware is going to be when you converge it to a desktop.
All right. So let me see if we can, I'm just going to pick some of the questions in there because otherwise we won't have time to go through all of them. So Seb3 is asking, do you think an Android app compatibility thing will come to Ubuntu Touch eventually or unofficially anyway, at least, for example, maybe when Libertine can probably run, let's say, about 99% of desktop Linux programs? Mike, I think I'll let you answer this one, especially because you in the past looked at compatibility with Android. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't know what Libertine has to do with that because that's really an X11 compatibility thing, not an Android one. The problem is that Android apps expect certain features to be available and not others. And so you're always going to have kind of a second-class experience trying to run them on something else, whether it's an alternative phone OS like WebOS or Sailfish OS did, or trying to run them on the desktop. It's just not going to be what you want it to be or what that app developer wants it to be. So even if you can get them to run, I don't think that's going to be something that people really enjoy running.
All right. Okay, so let's wrap up with the last question, an easy and fun one, perhaps, from Sep3 PQ M10 HC. Question, a classic question, if you still got time. First Linux distro and why and when? I'll let you start.
So my first Linux distro was in either 1999 or 2000, and it was a box set that I bought at Best Buy of Caldera Open Linux, and it came in 2 DVDs, and I set it up as a real basic Apache server. Now, of course, Caldera was bought by SCO, who ended up trying to sue everybody about everything. So it's not really a moment of pride for me, but that was my first Linux experience.
All right, there you go. So for me, it was a short-lived one, I think. It was Coral Linux, and that was essentially I was on Windows at the time, and I could get it running on Windows, and I think I then installed it as a standalone. After that, I went through several tests with Gen 2, I think, until it deleted my home drive. Then FreeBSD, and finally Debian, and that led me to Ubuntu.
All right. Well, with that, we're out of time. And once again, I'd like to invite everybody interested in snaps to join us on the Gitter Snappy Playpen channel. We will help you get started snapping whatever apps you're interested in, or just learning the technology in general. And of course, follow Ubuntu On Air on Twitter, YouTube, to get notices about videos, either past or future videos. And we do these Q&As every week, same day, same time at ubuntuonair.com. I think that's all the wrap-up stuff, right?
Yes, nothing else to add. So thanks, everyone, and then see you next week or in other places during the week. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.